Well, something is definitely up. The Blaze Media journalists have just dropped a bombshell stating that they believe they may know who the J6 bomber is. In fact, they've actually dropped the name, and they are claiming they are using forensic analysis to come up with that information. I've got a lot to share with you. The other day when I did my report, they hadn't name dropped. Well, now we've got a name being dropped by the Blaze Media, but the FBI has yet to confirm any of it. But with that in mind, just a few days after that bombshell revelation, Donald Trump says we could very well be looking at a national security catastrophe if one particular thing happens. I've got a lot to share with you, but before I do, I got to give a quick shout out to my sponsor at Noble Gold Investments. As we wrap up 2025, one thing is very clear. Uncertainty is not temporary. In fact, it is the world we live in. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't part of the plan. It's a gamble that you're taking. And I want to encourage you, don't take that gamble. If you really want to solidify your investments, I want to encourage you to diversify your profile into gold, silver, and precious metals. Noble Gold Investments have helped thousands of people get their hands on tangible gold. And by the way, they can send gold and silver directly to your doorstep. If you want to check them out, I want to encourage you, call them at 1-877-646-5347 and talk to one of their no-hassle specialists. And make sure you bring up Lisa Haven, my name, because right now, this holiday season, they are giving away up to 10 1-ounce silver holiday coins with any new or qualified account. So make sure you mention my name. Or you can go to lisahavengold.com, fill out this information, click email me my wealth kit, and they're going to send you that free wealth kit. So make sure you check that out. By the way, there's always a risk to investing. There's never a guarantee. If you want more info, click the more button or click the link in the description box below. All right. So with all of that, let's start first with this alleged J6 bomber that these journalists are claiming could be the bomber, right? Let's go directly to Blaze Media. And here's the headline. Former Capitol Police officer, a forensic match for J6 pipe bomber, sources say. A software algorithm that analyzes walking parameters, including flexion, the way that the knee bends, hip extension, speed, step length, cadence, and variance rated Shawnee Ray Kirchhoff, 31 years old, of Alexandria, Virginia, as a 94% match to the bomb suspect shown on video from January 5th, 2021. The veteran analyst who ran the analysis for Blaze Media News said that based on visual observations, the program can struggle with, he personally pegged the match at a closer to 98%. So this is what they're saying is going on forensically in the system. Kirchhoff, who was a Capitol Police officer for 4.5 years, left the department in mid-2021 for a security detail at the CIA, sources told Blaze Media. In other words, if this assessment is correct, and like I said, the FBI has not given their statement on it, they're still looking for information. The reward is still being offered. It's a $500,000 reward for information leading to the J6 bomber that has not gone to them yet. But either way, if this is the case, a Capitol Police officer who did, and in 2021 did security detail at the CIA, tells me there's a whole hell of a lot more to the story, if you get my drift, which means Justice Knight and Lisa Haven have been right all along. Now, it goes on to state that Blaze News reported on Wednesday on Capitol Police surveillance video showing Kirchhoff and other CDU officers repeatedly using lethal force on J6 crowd that was using less lethal weapons. What that means is Kirchhoff, the lady who they say the forensic analysis suspects as the J6 bomber, she was on at January 6th, and she was using lethal methods toward a less lethal crowd. Was she instigating it on? I guess that's something we got to look into. And then one has to question, why was she instigating it on if that's what she was doing, if she was the one who planted the bomb? Obviously, she's on the other side of the fence if I had to take a guess. But it goes on to state this. Former Capitol Police Chief Steve Sund told the Blaze News he is eager to learn the results of the pipe bomb investigation. But he said he had no awareness of any Capitol Police officer involvement in the pipe bomb bonding. And here's his words directly. I had no knowledge that it was being carried out, nor were they carrying it out with any authorization from the chief's office, Sund said. I'm unaware of any legitimate reason that any Capitol Police or other law enforcement officers would be involved in the planting of those pipe bombs. So they did get a response ish from the Capitol Police saying, hey, we had nothing to do with it. Nobody knew about it. If that is the case, we weren't involved. Like, if it was them, it was solely on that person. Now, the Capitol Police, outside of the one response from Sund, did not respond to Blaze News' request for comment on the pipe bombs case. Blaze News also reached out to the FBI and DOJ, but did not get a response at the publication of this. So they haven't gotten a response directly from the Capitol Police, but we did get a response from the former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund, who said they had no involvement. So that's where we are at. Interesting to say the least. Now, obviously, the FBI right now is still claiming that this is all still under investigation. Obviously, it needs time for them to look into it. And this is on Prime Timer. FBI claims to be still investigating the identity of the pipe bomber, offering $500,000 reward despite Steve Baker's revelation. Steve Baker is one of the two. It's Steve Baker and Joseph Hanneman who had kind of written this article on the Blaze. But despite all that, it goes on to state this, that a couple of days after journalists Steve Baker and Joseph Hanneman published an article claiming they'd identified the J6 bomber from 2021, FBI has shown it does not believe them. In a statement sent to journalist Brianna Morello over the weekend, FBI claims that the investigation is still ongoing, with a reward of $500,000 active for anyone coming forward with critical information about it. So at this time, they are still leaving it open for investigation. Obviously, time is still needed, but that is what it is right now at the FBI. Whether or not they believe them or investigating it, well, I'll ultimately leave that up to you to decide. At this time, it's all still speculation and forensic analysis, right? But I'd love to have a conclusion on that because it really is getting more and more interesting. And one has to ask, if it was someone at the Capitol Police Department or within the FBI, I think that screams there could be a potential cover-up within the organization. Inside job, if you will. Well, I guess we'll have to see. But with that, at around the same time, literally just a few days after that entire revelation, which is pretty dang big, if you ask me, because we've waited a long time to find anything, right? Donald Trump comes out and says that we could very well be looking at a national security catastrophe. What is this national security catastrophe? Well, take a look at this. This is on his Truth Social page. And here's what he said. The payback numbers being quoted by the radical left lunatics who would love to see us lose on tariffs because of how bad it would be for our country are much higher than those being stated by our fake opposition. Oppositions mainly from foreign countries that would do anything to be allowed to charge us tariffs without retribution. The actual number we would have to pay back in tariff revenues and investments would be in excess of $2 trillion with a T dollars. And that in itself would be a national security catastrophe. Those opposed to us in the U.S. Supreme Court are giving low numbers so that the court will think it is easy to get out of this terrible situation that these anarchists and thugs have put us into. In other words, regardless of what just happened with J6, Donald Trump is like, hey, 2 days later, and maybe he's distracting, maybe he's not, but either way, he is saying we are going to end up in a national security catastrophe if the Supreme Court says, rules against Donald Trump on his tariffs. Look, Donald Trump, I think, did the right thing regarding these tariffs. The American people have been screwed over backwards by all of these countries. We pay 10 to 30 to 40 times higher in some cases on tariffs than any other country has charged reciprocally, right? In reverse. This is insane. We need to fix that. I'm not going to continue to get screwed over by all these other countries. And now, if the Supreme Court says, oh, Donald Trump, you can't do that, we're talking about trust, failing from international countries, and they're not going to believe us on these tariffs. They're going to want some stuff back. And we're going to be sending $2 trillion in tariffs. In fact, Donald Trump put out another post saying, oh, wait, it's not $2 trillion. It's $3 trillion. And this was also published a little later in the day. And here it says, the U.S. Supreme Court was given the wrong numbers. The unwind in the event of a negative decision on tariffs would be including investments made to be made and return of funds in excess of $3 million. That's how much we have made on tariffs so far. It would not be possible to ever make up for that kind of drubbing. That would truly become an insurmountable, and he says it again, national security event, and devastating to the future of our country and possibly not sustainable. Well, that's a little chilling. We find out who the bomber is, and now we've got the Supreme Court threatening the tariffs that Donald Trump has already imposed and already taken action on. Seems like a crock of waiting to go off. I mean, there's a lot of things, right? We finally get the Democrats to vote to reopen the government, which is BS, by the way, because they're just going to have to go back to the drawing board on January 30th. And God forbid that the Republicans give them what they want on this Obamacare crap and funding illegals medically. I'm over it. And I hate the Democrats. They're saying, oh, you know, it's funding American citizens. No, it's not. It's illegal aliens who have claimed asylum and scream asylum. They haven't even been granted asylum. And they're saying, oh, because they said they're asylums, they're legal. They're not legal. And that's what is the issue here, right? So lots of that going on as well. Now, I don't necessarily believe there's a tie for the two, but could be a distraction in one way or the other. But I think both issues should be taken seriously regardless. I mean, look, if the Supreme Court rules outside of what Donald Trump wants, we are looking at a national security, potentially a catastrophe. $3 trillion that we don't have. How are they going to fund that? They're going to have to go back. We need to make money in America because we are trillions of dollars in debt. Imagine trillions of more being added to our clock. Now you're talking about inflation, busting the economy. It seems like this is exactly what the Democrats want. I really and truly believe, in light of everything that they just did with this government shutdown, they want Donald Trump to fail. They want the American people. It doesn't even matter. They want Donald Trump to fail, and I believe they're going to do everything in their power to crash this economy. That is what I see. When they acted the way they did with the shutdown, and now we've got this with the tariffs, what is that going to do to everyone in our country? And then, lo and behold, new election year, they're going to come in as a savior and make everything worse. Just my 2 cents. Anyhow, I love you guys. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven signing out.